my name is Sydney. Welcome back to my channel. It's been a long time since I have been to my channel, so welcome back to me. It's that time of year again, everybody. It is my tier ranking video for everything that I read in 2024. I eked out an extra 20 books this year just so that the list could be longer, so let's get into it. My S tier is Argue with the Wall. I would give it 6 stars if I could. Essentially, if you don't like these books, I don't want to hear it. This is not a chance for you to change my mind. I'm not going to argue with you and you're not going to argue with me. These are just like the most goated books that I read this year. Then we have Here, Have a Forehead Kiss. And I think that's just pretty self-explanatory. Very good, very sweet. You did your job. Then we have OG Ranking Holds Up. I watched somebody do a tier ranking video and their neutral category was it holds up, and I'm stealing it because I could not think of a way to like word it properly. I've also been very picky about rankings this year. I think I only gave 6 books out of my 53 5 stars. So most of these might fall into this little abyss category, but we'll find out. Then we have Thanks, but no thanks. These are books that were okay or maybe deserved a star less than I gave them, but I read them and I finished them and I won't read them ever again, but you know, it was cool. And then lastly, I only have a few of these, but they very much deserve to go into that category based on my tastes. So before we get into this video, please like this video, subscribe down below. Quick shameless plug, I am an author. I have written 2 romantasy books in a duology that you can read traditionally as standalones or in reverse order. The Fall of Jericho is a Sleeping Beauty retelling, and The Rise of Daragon is a Phantom of the Opera retelling. You can find them on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or Kindle Unlimited. You can also follow me on Instagram and TikTok. I will have those handles down below as well. With that blanket statement out of the way, here we go. Let's just say I started 2024 with a bang because back to back, I read the Crescent City books by Sarah J. Maas. I had heard so many things about this series, very mixed opinions. I think this was the most debated series between the fan base and the readership. This first book, was the reason I started getting into audiobooks because I had tried and failed spectacularly to read this traditionally and I just couldn't do it. I was getting lost. My comprehension was in the toilet. So audiobooks really saved me, and because of that, I almost feel like Here, Have a Forehead Kiss is just a little too low for this. So I'm going to put House of Earth and Blood in Argue with the Wall. I would give it 6 stars because the audiobook really changed my perception of it. I was able to digest it fully and it was so spectacular. Even if you can't get through the entire series, I really encourage you to try this book. Now, House of Sky and Breath. If we're talking about the last chapter of House of Sky and Breath, it would go in the top category. However, there were some things that just, I don't want to say fell flat, but it wasn't the best thing I had ever read. But it was really good and it was entertaining. And because of that last chapter, it's going to go into Here, Have a Forehead Kiss. House of Flame and Shadow. That's going to go into my OG Ranking Holds Up. If I had to read it again to prepare for what's coming with the rest of the series, or whatever contracted books she's got lined up, I will. The audiobook actually saved my ranking because I almost gave this 2 stars, but I think I ended up giving it 3. It is not her best book. Frankly, it might be one of her worst. I'm not thrilled. I also was very organized at the beginning of the year. I read by series, I went off of my TBR, and then throughout the rest of the year, I just like fell off the cliff. Let's go into our next one. So King of Wrath. King of Wrath, that's a forehead kiss. King of Wrath was so good. I was glued. It was right after I got my Kindle for Christmas and I was just devouring this story. So King of Wrath is going to go in that one. King of Pride, however, thanks but no thanks. What even was it about? I can't tell you. I don't remember. I remember that I didn't like it, but I got through it because I wanted to get to the next book and I wanted to understand. Really could not care less about King of Pride. If that's your favorite, oh well. King of Greed, however, hot take. Argue with the Wall. I don't care. Like, King of Greed hit me at the right time. And that's the only detail I'm gonna get into. So, yeah. I would not put a single one of Anna Huang's books in that category besides that one. Now, do I think that King of Wrath had a better story than King of Greed? Yes. But something about King of Greed, like I said, it just resonated with me at the right time. Okay, everybody, let's get into it. I read the entire Chestnut Springs series. I discovered Elsie Silver this year. Thank you to my friend Alyssa. Let's start off. I was like, there's no way something's gonna beat Flawless because I was obsessed with Flawless. Flawless, my OG ranking holds up. And I think that was 4 stars because I actually let it, marinate for a little bit before I ranked it. I also read these back to back, like immediately. I think I read each book in about 2 or 3 days. I think I finished the entire series in 2 weeks. And for me with a day job, that's really hard. Heartless, Heartless is gonna get a forehead kiss. I want to give it more, but I have emetophobia. It was just a little too much vomit. But otherwise, perfect book. Good tropes. Cade. I'm also a sucker for Single Dad, if it's done well. Powerless, okay. I'm having a personal crisis because Powerless was actually higher up for me than Heartless, but I have actually been listening to a lot of people's feedback on it, and I get it's a little odd. It's still getting a forehead kiss though, but I think Heartless does eke it out just a little bit more. I'll just put him as tied. Powerless doesn't have vomit. I'm sorry. Reckless though, Reckless is a 6-star read for me. I am a menace for Theo Silva, and I loved the modern day Cassian and Nesta dynamic, but it worked for me. Silver Flames, I kind of got annoyed with them. Theo and Winter just worked. Also, this was a pregnancy trope done in a way that I hadn't seen before, and it was epic. The hotel flashback, wow. And then Hopeless, my OG ranking holds up. It was okay. I'm kind of shocked that that was the last book. You had to cap it out with one of the brothers, but I was a little uncomfy at times. I would like to apologize for the feedback I have for this next series because the same friend who told me to read Chestnut Springs also recommended me this series. And because I love Chestnut Springs so much, I trusted her on this. I really kept my head down and worked my way through this series. But oh my gosh. So let's start off with the first book. It's the Bonds That Tie series. Do not let this get back to the author because I genuinely feel a little sick for saying this, but it's just how I felt with this book. This was genuinely, Broken Bonds, genuinely one of the worst books I've ever read in my entire life. I absolutely despised it. I have nothing nice to say about it. And that's where I'm gonna stop. I was not the target audience. And it just felt really poorly written. Beautiful covers though. These covers are gorgeous. I can say that. This book was so bad though that I had to take a break. I kind of thought that I had been lobotomized when I read that book. I stopped before continuing because my friend was like, it gets better in book 2 and then it gets better and better as you go through the series. So I took a break and I read Bride for book club. This is also the year I discovered Ali Hazelwood. How I went without an Ali Hazelwood book in my life up until this point, I don't understand. I read Bride for my March book club. Bride is a very interesting book to be your first Ali Hazelwood book. I think my OG ranking holds up because I did enjoy it. It felt very contemporary for a fantasy or a romantasy, but now that I've read her other books, I understand why that is. And so it's not that I wouldn't ever read it again. It's just, I can understand why it rubbed me the wrong way in some places. But yeah, back to The Bonds That Tie. I think book 2 is called Savage Bonds. Low key, it was not horrible. The second one was not horrible, but I would not read it again. Was that the one with the cliffhanger? There were 6 books, you guys. I barely remember. I'm just gonna go ahead and file. I think book 3 is when things go down. So I'm gonna say book 3 was my OG ranking holds up, but then the rest of these forced bonds. I'm gonna say thanks, but no thanks. For this one, I'm just gonna say thanks, no thanks. Unbroken Bonds? Okay, book 5 and 6, we find out some really heavy backstory. And it's really sad. So I'm just gonna say no. I'm not gonna read those again. No. I'm sorry. I needed such a detox from that series that I went back to Miss Elsie because she had Wild Love. She released Wild Love. And I read that for my April or May book club. And I'm gonna say that my OG ranking holds up. It was funny, I was one of the ones that actually loved the book. And then I got to book club and everybody kind of tore it to shreds or was like super analytical about it or like, this was weird, this was weird, this was a red flag. And I sat there and I wonder if my friends could see my face falling in realization, because as I started like mulling it over, I was like, it is a little weird. And then I got caught up in like the mechanics of how hard you would have to press that ballpoint pen on cotton. Anyways, so I'm just gonna put that in my mid-tier and call it a day. Oh, this next one I'm so excited about. Okay, the next one is actually a poetry collection called Eyes of Ice, Heart of Fire, and it's by my friend Sam Louise, and I have been on her and her friend Issa's podcast twice now. They are so sweet, and Sam with her poetry is so freaking talented. I was going through so much personally. I was so sad, and she gifted me either an ARC or like a fresh off the press copy of her poetry collection, and I still to this day keep it by my nightstand. It's so beautiful. I highly encourage you to go read it. So I am actually going to put this at Argue with the Wall. Okay, next up is Funny Story by Emily Henry, and I will say Emily Henry is like a contemporary giant in the industry right now. And good for her. I'm gonna say here, have a forehead kiss. Have I read better? Yes, I have read better Emily Henry than this. It was really good. And I can understand why people enjoy it or rank it above some of my favorite of Emily Henry. I would read it again. It was an enjoyable read and it was definitely worth the wait. Serpent in the Wings of Night, another book where had I read it in print, I wouldn't be able to get through it. I know that because I tried reading it in print and I could not get through it. So shout out to the audiobook narrator. She killed it. I'm gonna say here, have a forehead kiss. And I'm really looking forward to getting into more Carissa Broadbent, especially because she was an indie turned trad. I love supporting indie turned trad authors and just indie authors in general, but I still need to read Ashes, and I just got my copy of Songbird and the Heart of Stone, so I'm very, very excited to cross them off. Same with Six Scorched Roses. Okay, next up is The Nanny by Lana Ferguson. I don't know what I was expecting with this, but the cover makes it feel very lighthearted, fluffy. It's not. This is one of those books that really duped me with the cover. You know how everybody's like, oh, Icebreaker's so cute on the cover, and then the inside is just like filth. Same deal with this. But I really did enjoy it, so I'm gonna say that my OG ranking holds up. The Dixon Rule. Let me tell you, there's a caveat with this. So I really, really loved this book up until a certain point. And because of that, I'm gonna go thanks but no thanks. Something about the way that the book wound down, it just really fell off for me, and it ruined the good momentum that the book had. Also, this book was incredibly long. Her books for the Campus Diaries are very long. They do not need to be that long, in my very humble opinion. And it just started to drag after a while. So that's why it's going down. There are some scenes that I could skim, but I'm never reading that full book ever again. That was crazy. Okay, my one and only reread? I think, yeah, this is the only book of the year that I did a reread for. And I don't really reread books often. I think this coming year or next one, I'm going to reread Throne of Glass because it will have been 7 years since I read book 1. And you know how like cells regenerate every 7 years, so you're like a new person? I'm taking that with like my book comprehension, because truth be told, I don't remember everything that happens in Throne of Glass, and it was awesome. Anyways, this is my one and only reread. It was Scythe by Neil Shusterman, and it will always and forevermore be an Argue with the Wall would give 6+ stars read for me. This will be one of my books that I auto recommend literally everybody on planet Earth, whether you are a young child, an old man, somewhere in the middle. I don't care who you are, I'm gonna recommend you this book. It is so good. It is just delightful, dystopian that's like not overhyped, I feel like. And I will say, this series has the kind of plot twists that in some cases outrank plot twists from like some of my favorite authors like Taha Mafi and Sarah J. Maas. The shock factor, but with actual grounds to do so, is insane work. Next up is Face Off by Chelsea Curto. I think, is this my first indie author save for the poetry collection? I think I found this off of an Instagram post with one of my mutuals, and the premise sounded intriguing. I really liked the cover. Sometimes that's all you need to hook me. I'm gonna say here, have a forehead kiss. This was so, so good. Again, I understand why there was vomit, but that is kind of my only negative, is that I couldn't do the vomit for whatever scenes were happening. So I won't say why. I'm just, you know, vomit is not for me. Next, I finally went back to some fantasy, and that was The Shadows Between Us by Trisha Levenseller. I saw the special edition in Half Price Books at a book event I went to back in June, if I'm not mistaken. And a lot of times, because I wrote a romantasy book, I would comp this book with mine, because based on the blurb, I was like, I think they're very similar. Authors maybe don't do this, but I hadn't read the book fully before comping my book to that book. I decided to not be a fraud and read it, and it was amazing. So I would give it 6 stars. It's definitely YA, which I'm trying to like slowly pull back from, unless it's upper YA. Upper YA is delicious. It skimmed over some risque material in like a very eloquent way. You know what's happening, but you don't see it in like an explicit context, which I think is really cool. One of my top reads of the year. And honestly, while I have it, I'm just gonna go ahead and drag the sequel up there, because that was 5 stars too. Honestly, Trisha Levenseller eats it up every time. Okay, next is King of Sloth by Anna Huang. So I read all of the Kings of Sin up until we were waiting for King of Sloth to come out. King of Sloth, I would say my OG ranking holds up. I think the character dynamics were really good, and I really liked the ending, which kind of shocked me. Did it hold up with King of Greed? No, not even a little bit. Same with King of Wrath, but it was still enjoyable, so it'll go in my mid-tier. Okay, next is Body Check by Elle Kennedy, and let me tell you, if you just need a short, spicy little something in your life, this is a book you need to go pick up. However, there came a point when there was more smut than plot, and that's something that like doesn't sit well with me. I really need a plot to stay hooked. So I'm gonna say thanks, but no thanks. I am very excited for the Charlie Method though. I'm a little worried it's gonna have that smut to plot ratio problem, but I'm still gonna read the heck out of it. Next is Powerless by Lauren Roberts, and let me just say, we all know what's going on with the Powerless Red Queen plagiarism drama. We know. We've seen it, we've watched it, we've consumed it. I'm not going to let that be something I take into account with this particular ranking. All I'm going to say is that I have met her. She is a lovely human being. She's very kind. I love her content. I've been watching her content since before she published Powerless as an indie. Her TikToks were genuinely inspiring for me as a wannabe author. The story, however, I could sense similarities and inspiration. It dragged on for a long time. And I know she was having fun with it, and she thought, you know, 30 people would read it. And so because of that, I'm just gonna say thanks, but no thanks. I do still need to read Reckless, but I'm hoping that Reckless kind of veers off the path that Powerless started on. Now we're entering our cowboy phase. Again, part 2. Next up is The Pieces We've Lost by H.K. Green, and she has become one of my dear author friends, and I am so glad that I met her. We yap about author struggles and just writing in general, and she makes me feel sane when I'm about to lose every last one of my marbles. This is also the icon I have for the cover. That is her special edition cover, so if you're even vaguely interested in cowboy romances with an emotional gut punch, please go order one of her special edition copies. They are gorgeous. So I'm gonna say, here, have a forehead kiss. I openly wept. Continuing on through the cowboy phase, we have indie author Meredith Trapp with Homebound. I did not read Icebound. I frankly have just had my fill of hockey, but this book was delicious. I'm gonna put that in here, have a forehead kiss. I really love when the woman is jaded and the man is soft. And again, single dads just get me. Speaking of single dads and cowboy romances, we have Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. And let me tell you, Wild Eyes wiped Wild Love off the map. Wild Eyes is going into my top category for sure. It was one of the few books that I gave 5 stars. I read the audiobook, and the audiobook also included musical excerpts, which is so cool because the female main character is a pop star and she's trying to escape the limelight. And so getting to actually hear the music go with it that Elsie wrote was very good. I'm so excited for Wild Side. I think that comes out in March. It's definitely going to be one of my top reads. Okay, and then we have Powerful, and I will say I liked Powerful more than I liked Powerless, but still something just wasn't there for me. Also, it was heartbreaking AF. So it's going into my OG ranking holds up. And we go back to Allie Hazelwood. Finally, my friends had told me that Love Theoretically is her best one, and that I should read that one. My logic went to, oh, that's the best. I'm gonna save it and really enjoy these other books so that if one of these other books is the best, I'm that much more excited for Love Theoretically. So I started with Love on the Brain, and Love on the Brain was pretty good. It was okay. Am I gonna read that one specifically again? No. So I'm gonna put thanks but no thanks, but genuinely I really liked it. I promise. It sounds like I didn't, but I did. It's just not among my favorites. Then we get to The Love Hypothesis. That one is Here Have a Forehead Kiss. That one is so good. Wait, did I just put Love on the Brain and thanks but no thanks? No, I meant to put that into my OG ranking holds up. What was I thinking? No, because The Love Hypothesis goes into my Here Have a Forehead Kiss. The Love Hypothesis was so good. I understand it's Raylo fanfic. I don't care. Okay, I bet you've been waiting for something else to go into that bottom category, and I have it for you. A Court of Sugar and Spice. Good freaking lord. No. Like, I feel so bad because, let me just put it this way. No offense to the author at all. Not only was this book just a no, this author's marketing is great. I'm not the target audience of it. That's gonna be like my go-to phrase. I was not the target audience. That's why I don't like it. If you are her target audience, you're going to like melt over these books. I can't do it. She does a lot of retellings. And I think sometimes if the retellings aren't original enough, like there's not enough separation from the original work, it just does not click with me. However, I saw this book on TikTok. I saw it on a video with 18 likes, 2 hashtags, and all it was a tropes list and the cover. And mind you, the fact that it was A Court of Blank and Blank, I was already like, I love the Nutcracker Ballet so much though that I had to know what this was about. To be fair, I could not put this book down, but this book was deeply disturbing to my psyche. That romantasy, fantasy, spicy, whatever, it was so not for me that I needed to go on a contemporary romance cleanse for like nearly the rest of the year, as you can see by the rest of these books. So let's get into Daydream by Hannah Grace. Believe it or not, I am a big Icebreaker, like, I don't want to say hater, but I did not like Icebreaker. Again, that smut to plot ratio problem. It just was not it for me. Daydream was one of my top reads for the year. So Daydream is going in Argue with the Wall. I loved Daydream so much. As an eldest daughter, I absolutely savored it. I loved Henry in the other books. Henry was like a bright spot in the midst of Icebreaker, so I was very, very glad to see him get his shining moment. I think they as a couple are so cute. And it was such vibes over plot instead of smut over plot that I ate it up. I read it while I was sick. I had nothing to do. It just took over my life. And I will give props because reading Daydream made me feel inspired to start writing, you know, easy breezy, beautiful cover girl contemporary. As a romantasy author, it helped me really make that shift. And the book I'm publishing in 2025 is basically inspired by the joy that Daydream filled me with. So thank you, Hannah Grace. Okay, Yours Unexpectedly by Rachel Lewis. Let me tell you, I got to meet her at a book fair that she helped put on. She's local to me. She has a hilarious bookish podcast. So I was like pretty starstruck just meeting her, and I was like, okay, I have to have your book on my shelves. But I knew nothing about her book until I bought it and she signed my book, and I read the back and I was like, oh, I think that I am the target audience for this. Boy, was I. I gobbled this book up. It was so good. I love college set contemporaries, which was the perfect thing to read after reading Daydream because my upcoming book series that's contemporary is college set. And reading Yours Unexpectedly just reaffirmed why I love that particular genre of like college romance or new adult romance. So this is going into Argue with the Wall. I would give it 6 stars. Easily. It was just so good. I understand that there are some things that just like aren't perfect, or there's some verbiage that just wasn't for me, but it did not take away from the general vibe that the book gave me. And she's also just like such a cool person. I think if you meet an author of a book you love and they just really match the good vibes you have for their story, it's like the perfect package. Massive shout out to her. And then we finally get to Love Theoretically, and Love Theoretically was my number 2 book of the year. So I would give that like 10 stars. When I first started reading her books, I was like, I don't think I'm going to be really into her STEMinist stuff because I am not a STEM girly. I am not smart like that. Allie just knows how to tell it in a very quirky voice that it's digestible. And thank God. So good. Literally a gift. That book is a gift. Okay, back to Chelsea Curto. We've got Power Play, which is the second book in the DC Stars series. The main trope that's like in the subtitle of the book, it just like didn't stick in my brain. And so when the trope transpired, I like freaked out. In like a good way, but I forgot that that was where the plot was going because the trope didn't start troping until like 52% through the book. And because of that, it was so enjoyable. I'm gonna say, Here Have a Forehead Kiss. Again, this book was also pretty long, but I enjoyed it very much. All right, we're getting to the end of the year when I'm starting to crash out and lose momentum. So I read quite a few novellas. At this point, Allie Hazelwood can do no wrong with me. I'm so excited for Deep End. I'm so excited for all of her other stuff. I still need to read Check and Mate. So I was like, you know what? A cute winter novella to kick off the Christmas season. Why not? I'm realizing that novellas, they're really good, but I for sure wouldn't read it again because I like her full form stuff. So thanks but no thanks. Good time. Okay, Merrily Yours. This is the follow-up novella to Yours Unexpectedly, and it was just such cozy vibes, still a little spicy. Also, that last chapter with the POV from a person we haven't even met yet was crazy. That is going into a forehead kiss category. That was incredible. Cute little novella. I have that book signed as well. I bought it from my local bookstore at the Plot Twist in Denton. Yes, Not Another Love Song. My number 1 book of the year. I'm literally gonna have this skirt the rest of the line. It was that good. 12,000 stars. Not only that, and I know I have a forehead kiss category, but I wish I could give Julie Soto herself a forehead kiss. She put drugs in this book. As a band kid, as a choir kid, as a musical instrument kid, as a kid who literally survives off of the arts, she did that. Genuinely, I needed this book so bad. I read it right before Thanksgiving and I frankly was exhausted with 2024, and going into the holidays, I had no steam. And I read that book and I felt like I had hit one of those power-ups on like a jetpack and was just excellent. I literally can't even think straight. The book is that good. I hyperfixate on this book. This cover is beautiful. I don't care that it's Raylo fanfic. Oh my gosh, this woman accomplished something and wrote something that I cannot even put English words together, and my job is literally to write and form sentences. Thank you, Julie Soto. I will never listen to two cellos the same. Or the string pop orchestra with the Bridgerton songs. I can't do it. Okay, let's get into the next one. Let's go to Collide. It took me 3 months to read this book. I want to put it in thanks but no thanks, but the more I think about it, it was just a violation. It gave me nothing. No enjoyment. There was smut, but like, even that wasn't really enjoyable for me. Then again, maybe that's because it took me 3 months to read it and then it came right after the best book of the year. So, sorry if it's offensive, but it's going into my violation category. Okay, then we have The Rom-Commers by Catherine Center. Catherine Center is a lovely, hilarious woman. I got to meet her back in June. She signed my copy. Cute, cute lady. I don't think I've ever read a rom-com that was so calm, like comedy, also so freaking heartbreaking in the same breath. This was one of those books where I would LOL and then cry my eyes out in the span of like 2 pages. I think this was an excellent book, especially if I'm going to read more of her books. I'm going to put that in Here Have a Forehead Kiss. Although I will say she almost ripped the rug out from underneath me towards the end. And Catherine, when I catch you, when I catch you, Catherine, I'm so sorry. As an indie myself, it genuinely pains me to say this. I would like to preface this with I was not the target audience. This literally sunk me for the rest of the year. That is Dashing All the Way. It is a running Christmas novella, and the trope, like the leading trope, is why it's going into it was a violation of my 8th Amendment rights. Also, I don't know if I prefaced this earlier in the video, but 8th Amendment rights, that's no cruel and unusual punishment. So the main trope of this book was this girl was getting with her ex's father. And I knew that going in, but I wanted there to be hope. It was so nasty to me. Again, that's why I'm saying, if you're the target audience, if that trope is something you rock with, you're gonna love this. For starters, I could not give a rip about running. Number two, that trope is just really nasty to me, especially the way it was handled. Like, I started to side with the son who used to date her, and he cheated on her. I kind of sided with the cheater because it was just so icky. Her DC Stars book, love them. They're so good. This was just not the move for me. I needed a Christmas redemption after that. And so then I went to Spectacular by Stephanie Garber, and it was great. I am gonna say thanks but no thanks because I will probably never reread a Christmas book. Maybe Merrily Yours, if the next book that comes out has like tidbits I need to get back for research. It was really cute though. It's on my husband's nightstand right now. He loves the pictures. The art in this book was amazing. The illustrations, the design. Okay, I put a picture of Taylor Swift right here because I like this picture of her more than the picture that they put on the final cover of the Eras Tour book. And I realized that I could actually put in the Taylor Swift Eras book on my Goodreads. And so considering I read it cover to cover in one sitting, like I actually read it, I didn't just skim, I read every single blurb and then promptly returned the book. I am gonna say thanks but no thanks. A lot of it was already on social media. It felt like a money grab. It rubbed me the wrong way, but I still love you, Taylor. And lastly, I have Court of the Vampire Queen by Katie Robert. Oh my god, where do I even start with this one? I found this out by looking at the copyright page, but apparently this book was originally 3 separate books, or like novellas, that were now bound together into one book. I wanted to give it a shot though because based on the cover, I was getting vibes with the book that I wrote, so I wanted to see what it was about. I should have read further. The very first chapter was spicy, and all it was, from start to finish, was spicy. And she even warned me. She put a hold content warning, that's not on her. But still, oh my good grief. I don't even know where to put this. Do I put this in thanks but no thanks? It was not a violation of my 8th Amendment rights because I could have stopped at any time, and I didn't. I wanted to finish it. Or did it finish me? I'm gonna put Court of the Vampire Queen in OG ranking holds up. Will I be reading any of her other books? Probably not. I do want to try Scarlett St. Clair, her like A Touch of Darkness books. I do want to give those a shot, but I think Katie Robert is a little too spicy for me. But I'm glad I know now. That was my 2024 tier ranking my reads video. Thank you so much for watching. It is so good to be back and filming and editing and uploading for you guys. I can't wait to see what happens in the book world for us and for me as an author in 2025. And until then, I'll see you in the next video.